A sourdough starter is a live yeast mixture used to make bread. It can be maintained or fed and kept indefinitely. The simplest method uses flour and water. On day 1, put 75 grams of strong white flour and 75 milliliters of cold mineral water in a container. Stir until well combined to make a smooth batter. Set aside at room temperature for 24 hours. Don't cover the starter for the first 3 days. This will allow it to pick up the natural yeasts in the air and give it a chance to breathe and grow. On days 2, 3 and 4, feed the starter with 75 grams of strong white flour and 75 milliliters of mineral water each day. The starter should be starting to bubble and smell sour. Cover loosely with a clean tea towel on the 4th day and leave at room temperature. On day 5, the starter should be full of bubbles and ready to use. If it's not, continue with the feeding process for another couple of days. Remove half the starter and use to make sourdough. To maintain the rest, feed it with 75 grams of new flour and 75 milliliters of mineral water and put it in a glass jar, but don't cover tightly. If baking regularly, you'll be removing some of the starter each time, so keep loosely covered at room temperature and feed the remaining starter each time. If baking less often, keep the starter in the fridge and maintain the feeding process every 5 days or so, removing half and feeding with flour and water. A day before using it in baking, remove from the fridge, uncover and bring it up to room temperature to make it active and bubbly again. If you're not planning on baking bread when you feed the starter, don't discard the removed half. Freeze it in a separate container or transfer it to a new jar and give it to friends to make their own sourdough.